When Colleen Bubb first started working at a cafe in the West Australian tourist town of Kalbarri, she knew nothing of the treasures hidden beneath its floor. For under the cafe sat a long-forgotten gem mine tourist attraction with thousands of semi-precious stones embedded in the walls. Later, when Mrs Barb and her husband Glenn bought the cafe, they decided to again unearth the attraction for visitors. The reopening sparked an avalanche of memories for long-time Kalbarri residents who remember the attraction as a virtual Aladdin's cave of treasures. Fantasyland in its heyday in the 1970s and 1980s. Supplied, Ross family. Fantasyland. In 1976, Kalbarri locals Gwyn and Cliff Ross decided to try their hand at tourism in their semi-retirement years. Mrs Ross was an avid doll collector, and so opened the House of Little People to showcase what became a collection of 4,000 dolls from across the world. So popular was the doll exhibit that it is said to have won the crown of the best geographical collection of dolls in the world at the Festival of Dolls in Poland in 1980. Mr Ross was more of a rock man, so he added to the attraction by opening a gem mine, in which he embedded 2,000 semi-precious stones into the walls of an underground cellar to showcase their beauty. Visitors would descend down a staircase into the mine to wonder at gems such as tiger eye, amethyst and macate, as well as coal and a whole lot more, sparkling from the walls. A pretend railway track, cart and historical mining paraphernalia added to the mine-like atmosphere. Together the somewhat incongruous mix of dolls, gems and other oddities, like bottles and fossils, became known as Fantasyland. While it would possibly be regarded as gloriously kitsch today, in its heyday Fantasyland attracted coachloads of visitors, and was a must-do Kalbarri tourism attraction. Cliff Ross in his gem mine at Fantasyland in Kalbarri in the 1970s or 80s. Supplied, Ross family. 44-gallon drums full of stones. Mr. and Mrs. Ross's son Kerry remembers helping build the gem mine. Dad had a passion for doing all sorts of strange things at different times, Kerry Ross said. One of his favorite sayings was to bite off more than you can chew and then chew like buggery, and that's what he did in life. Kerry Ross's wife Christina once worked at Fantasyland. Busloads of people would come, they'd all get out, spend all their money, have a cup of tea, and just want to talk to Gwyn and Cliff, Christina Ross said. A three-faced doll, whose expression would change from happy to sad, at Fantasyland. Supplied, Ross family. Cliff Ross sourced his gems from his own travels, and also bought them through gemstone trading companies. He'd have 44-gallon drums full of stones like tiger, iron, amethyst, all sorts of stones. He'd polish them, tumble some, Christina Ross said. And the ones for the mine, he'd make sure they were shiny enough. Shutting shop. When Mr. and Mrs. Ross sold up in their later years, Fantasyland changed hands several times before its closure. Most of the dolls were sold, the treasures packed in boxes, and the mine closed. Over the decades the doors remained closed, dust gathered, and most assumed the gem mine was long gone. Until now. Colleen Bubb is bringing the former tourist attraction back to life. ABC Midwest and Wheatbelt, Samuel Mitchell. New life. After buying the cafe, Mrs. Bubb couldn't wait to reopen the gem mine. She spent days cleaning up years of accumulated dust and revealing the stones in their former glory. Both Mr. and Mrs. Bubb admire not only the stones, but the couple whose vision brought Fantasyland to life. The passion that went into it was just amazing, Mr. Bubb said. To think someone's had all this time to do this and it ended up so nice.